My name is Willie, and I'm 33 years old. I'm here to share the story of how my marriage came to an end. I was married to Gabriella, who was 6 years younger than me. I loved her deeply and allowed her the freedom to live life on her own terms, until she crossed a line that I couldn't accept. Despite my reluctance, I had to ensure she understood the gravity of her actions and prevent her from repeating them. What she did was unforgivable and warranted consequences. Though it pained me, I couldn't condone cheating in any relationship. I discovered Gabriella's lies and infidelity, and I took action to hold her accountable for her choices. I met Gabriella 10 months ago at a friend's party and was immediately captivated by her beauty. Eager to learn more about her, I asked our mutual friend to introduce us, and we hit it off. Gabriella was easy to talk to, and our conversation flowed effortlessly. She shared her love for parties and living life boldly. Her determination and clarity about her goals impressed me even more. I decided then that I wanted to spend more time getting to know her. As we continued to see each other, I found myself unable to shake thoughts of her. She stirred emotions in me like no one else ever had. Despite warnings from friends about her wild reputation and string of past relationships, I brushed them aside. I trusted my gut, convinced that she felt the same way about me. Just 7 months into knowing Gabriella, I felt deep in my heart that she was the one I wanted to spend my life with. I whisked her away to a secluded island for a holiday, where I had meticulously planned every detail to impress her. One evening, as we sipped drinks and watched the sunset, I seized what felt like the perfect moment and asked her to marry me. Her immediate and tearful acceptance filled me with joy. She hugged me tightly, declaring it the best day of her life. Our wedding was nothing short of grandeur, becoming the talk of the town for weeks on end. Media outlets and social platforms buzzed with coverage of our fairy tale romance, captivating audiences far and wide. Our love story seemed to touch the hearts of many, drawing strangers to offer congratulations and well wishes wherever we went. The overwhelming outpouring of love and support made us feel truly blessed and grateful. On our wedding day, Gabriella and I made a conscious decision to maintain separate rooms for our belongings. While we shared nights together, we also valued our individual space. Recognizing that our courtship had been brief, we agreed to continue living as we had before tying the knot until we found a rhythm that worked for both of us. We understood the significance of preserving our identities and interests within the bounds of marriage, allowing each other the freedom to pursue personal hobbies and ambitions. This approach, we believed, would not only fortify our connection, but also foster personal growth alongside our journey as a couple. We respected each other's schedules and refrained from micromanaging or constantly monitoring one another. With my focus largely on my business, introducing additional obligations to my routine would have been burdensome. I trusted Gabriella to prioritize her own well-being and communicate any needs or concerns as they arose. Our relationship thrived on trust and independence, allowing us to support each other's personal growth while maintaining a healthy balance between our individual lives and our life together. This dynamic fostered a sense of freedom and autonomy, deepening our mutual respect and admiration. We recognized that prioritizing our own well-being was crucial for the strength and happiness of our marriage. When Gabriella expressed a desire to celebrate her marriage with her friends, I'd organized the 7-day cruise for her and 5 of her closest friends. I opted not to join them, understanding that my presence might disrupt their experience. I was always ready to fulfill any reasonable wish of my wife's, as her happiness was my utmost concern. I believed that giving her space to enjoy this special time with her friends would make the experience even more memorable for her. I trusted that she would have a wonderful time and create lasting memories with her closest companions. Gabriella continued to live her life much as she had before our marriage, attending parties, occasionally coming home inebriated, and retiring to bed. One evening, I sat her down and asked if something was troubling her, prompting this behavior. She confided that adjusting to this new life was overwhelming, as she hadn't grown up with the privileges I had. I listened empathetically, realizing that she needed time to acclimate to the lifestyle, of a wealthy man's wife. It's been nearly 4 months since our wedding, and Gabriella still kept to her separate room. While she showered me with affection and our nights together were passionate, there remained a palpable sense of something missing in our relationship. Despite our physical closeness, an emotional gap lingered between us. I couldn't shake the feeling that there were deeper issues at play, causing Gabriella to maintain her distance. I wanted her to feel completely at ease and to trust me implicitly, knowing that this was her home and she belonged here. Contemplating whether to broach the subject with Gabriella, I grappled with my own unhappiness and concerns about our relationship. I hoped she would be receptive to an open conversation and understand my perspective. Deciding to give it another week, I resolved to sit down with her for a heartfelt discussion about our feelings and whether we were truly aligned. I determined that this approach would minimize any potential harm. Arriving home early one day to retrieve papers for an upcoming meeting, I noticed Gabriella's absence. Presumably, she was out with her friends, intent on grabbing my papers and leaving. A curiosity sparked within me to explore Gabriella's room for insights that might shed light on her behavior. Rummaging through her belongings, I searched for a diary or journal, hoping to gain a deeper understanding of her thoughts. Amidst my exploration, a lipstick tumbled to the floor, revealing a paper tucked beneath the dresser. Sensing its importance, I retrieved it. An invitation to a private party in Gabriella's honor, organized by a group of men. As I scrutinized the details, a line at the bottom seized my attention. To the most beautiful woman ever, who deserves the love of every man in the world. The venue, a private villa owned by one of my business competitors, added a layer of intrigue. Determined to unravel the mystery, I decided to attend the party and witness the situation firsthand. En route, I phoned Gabriella to inquire about her whereabouts. She casually mentioned a sleepover at a friend's house, assuring me of her return the following evening. With no reason to doubt her, I reflected on the freedom I had granted her, wondering what truths awaited me at the party. Trusting Gabriella's integrity, I sought only reassurance that she wasn't at the party. Yet, a nagging sense of suspicion drove me to investigate further. Upon arrival, I parked outside and found the gate unmanned, granting me easy access. Inside, the air pulsed with boisterous music, filling the surroundings with its infectious energy. A line of cars traced the path toward the villa, among them, Gabriella's unmistakable vehicle. Her presence at the party contradicted her claim of a sleepover. Approaching the villa's entrance, I hesitated to announce my arrival, opting instead to discreetly survey the scene. Along the wall, I sought out a window offering a vantage point. Spotting an open blind, I cautiously peered inside, careful not to draw attention. Within, a group of men congregated, their laughter mingling with the music's crescendo. Though their words were lost in the din, their jovial demeanor only deepened my intrigue. So absorbed in my quest for answers, I failed to notice the glaringly obvious. Most of the men were scantily clad, some shirtless, others in nothing but their underwear. Their collective attention was fixed on something obscure from my view, positioned too low for me to discern. Perplexed by Gabriella's presence in such a scene, I contemplated abandoning my investigation and ringing the doorbell. Yet, before I could act, movement caught my eye, a figure rising from the midst of the group. It was Gabriella, standing amidst the men, her hands covering her breasts, clad only in her panties. I was stunned into silence, grappling with the realization that this might be the most disturbing sight of the day. As one of the men approached to kiss her, she laughed, inciting cheers from the others. Rage and indignation surged within me. Determined to intervene, I resolved to storm in and rescue Gabriella. However, a sudden idea struck me. Returning to the window, I meticulously noted down the identities of everyone present at the party. 5 men, and unmistakably Gabriella. Fury and frustration engulfed me as I grappled with the realization of Gabriella's betrayal and the potential consequences of confronting her and the 5 men, all of whom were my business rivals. I couldn't risk becoming a laughingstock in their eyes because of her actions. Resolving to leave them to their revelry, I knew I had to devise a plan to not only embarrass them, but also teach Gabriella a lesson. Exiting the villa, I marched towards my car, my mind a whirlwind of emotions too overwhelming to process. I had given Gabriella everything she desired and then some, including fulfilling intimacy in our relationship. Yet, her actions at the party left me bewildered. What could she possibly be seeking that drove her to such extremes? Pondering her motives proved futile in the heat of the moment. My focus shifted to retribution against Gabriella and the men who had taken advantage of her presence. Anger and betrayal consumed me, igniting a thirst for revenge. I needed a plan to hold them accountable for their actions and restore a sense of justice. As the fury within me simmered, I vowed to ensure they faced the consequences of crossing me. True to her word, Gabriella returned home the following evening. I awaited her arrival, observing her demeanor closely in the wake of her betrayal. Despite her infidelity with 5 men, she appeared remarkably composed. Attempting to maintain a facade of normalcy, I casually inquired about her supposed sleepover. She responded with a nonchalant description of catching up with friends. Waiting for her to freshen up, I plotted my revenge. Once Gabriella settled beside me, I divulged my plan for a 2-week business trip, for which I claimed to have hired a personal secretary named Evelyn. I explained that Evelyn would be attending to my needs during my absence. Summoning Evelyn to the living room, I introduced her to Gabriella, who greeted her with forced politeness. Instructing Gabriella to rest, I indicated a need for a private discussion with Evelyn. Though she feigned wariness, her exhaustion likely stemmed from her escapades with the 5 men. Despite Gabriella's evident discomfort with my attentiveness to Evelyn, she acquiesced, left with no choice but to comply. I walked purposefully with Evelyn in a direction opposite to Gabriella, placing my hand on Evelyn's rear deliberately to ensure Gabriella noticed. Spending an hour with Evelyn, I outlined her role to unsettle Gabriella and sow seeds of doubt about my relationship with Evelyn, prompting Gabriella to confess her indiscretions willingly. The following morning, unbeknownst to Gabriella, Evelyn entered our bedroom to wake me for a meeting. Gabriella was visibly surprised by Evelyn's access to our private space. I swiftly prepared to leave, informing Gabriella that I would be away for 2 weeks. With Catherine by my side, we departed, leaving Gabriella at home while I monitored her activities from a hotel. During this time, I also focused on gathering detailed information about the men from the party. I meticulously compiled evidence of their actions, preparing to leverage it at the opportune moment. During my hotel stay, I meticulously documented any suspicious behavior or interactions from Gabriella, along with any potential ties she might have had to the men from the party. Moreover, I discreetly gathered both personal and professional information on all 5 men, determined that they wouldn't evade consequences for their actions with my wife. To delve deeper, I enlisted the services of a personal investigator to scrutinize the men and provide detailed reports. However, Gabriella warranted special attention, prompting me to conduct surveillance myself. Anticipating her departure from our home, I waited for the opportune moment. When Gabriella left around noon, I tailed her car to observe her rendezvous. She parked at a hotel and met with Hunter Rogers, my foremost competitor. Over lunch, they exchanged laughter and smiles, with Rogers' hand occasionally resting on Gabriella's thigh. Notably, she made no effort to deter his advances. After their lunch, Rogers escorted Gabriella to his car and drove her to his villa. Aware of their likely activities, I decided not to continue following them. Instead, relying on details provided by my private investigator about Hunter Rogers, I obtained contact information for Hunter's fiancée. Using a phone booth, I called Hunter's fiancée and informed her of a surprise planned by Hunter at a specific address. I provided the location and waited for her arrival. 35 minutes later, she arrived and was granted entry by bribed security guards. Finding the main door unlocked, she entered, expecting a pleasant surprise, but encountering a shocking scene. Inside, she witnessed Hunter in a compromising position with another woman. Enraged, She confronted him, hurling her engagement ring at his face and threatening to end their relationship and withdraw her investments from his business. As Hunter attempted to explain himself, she remained resolute in her decision, trusting what she had seen. Sitting in my car, I observed the scene unfold, satisfied with the outcome. With one target down, I repeated the process with the remaining men, gathering evidence of their infidelity or catching them red-handed in compromising situations with other women. As a result, most of them faced financial losses or hefty alimony payments due to their infidelity. But I had one final surprise in store for Gabriella. I arranged a party at a new venue and sent invitations to all the men who had been involved with her, suggesting it as an opportunity for her to uplift their spirits during this challenging period. Simultaneously, I sent Gabriella invitations from each of the men, praising her for understanding and never judging them, framing the gathering as a celebration of the unique bond they shared. I ensured the villa was meticulously prepared before the party commenced, and everyone arrived punctually. Before entering, each guest was required to deposit their phones, cutting them off from the outside world, a crucial part of my plan. Gabriella arrived adorned in a provocative red backless dress I had gifted her. I couldn't help but be amused by her audacity, flaunting attire I had provided while engaging with other men without an ounce of remorse. Throughout the villa, cameras discreetly recorded every moment, ensuring I wouldn't miss any action, even in the bathrooms. The party kicked off with music and drinks, gradually escalating as guests began to dance and engage in intimate acts. At one point, Gabriella's voice pierced through the revelry. "Oh, your baby is not a baby at all. He is huge. I don't know if he will fit in me. Come here quickly." Disgusted, I averted my gaze. As the event unfolded, I initiated a live stream of the party, broadcasting it to all participating companies. The feed streamed on every TV screen within my company and those of the other invitees. Gathering their phones, I stationed myself in the surveillance room. As the evening progressed, their phones began to ring incessantly, calls from managers, family, and friends alerting them to their unwitting participation in live broadcast. Silencing the devices, I reclined with a bucket of popcorn, relishing the spectacle. Throughout the 2 weeks of observation, one truth became glaringly apparent. Gabriella harbored no genuine affection for me. She was merely drawn to the wealth and privileges of being my wife. While I could have accepted her materialistic nature, what stunned was her deceit, the pretense of loyalty while engaging in affairs, particularly with individuals I would inevitably encounter in business dealings. I could envision the smug satisfaction on their faces as they interacted with me, knowing they were indulging in the best moments of their lives with my wife. Their actions not only undermined my standing, but also eroded any semblance of trust or respect I had for Gabriella. I couldn't tolerate such blatant disrespect. Exposing not only Gabriella, but also sending a clear message to those men that they had made a grave mistake by crossing me felt like the right course of action. Collecting the entire party footage, I departed, leaving a message for Gabriella informing her of my impending arrival the next day. Meanwhile, the cameras continued to capture them sleeping together, entwined in the aftermath of their debauchery. Some of the men departed in the morning, leaving Gabriella as the last to leave. Glancing at her phone, she hastily made her exit, rushing home to prepare for my impending arrival. When I deemed enough time had passed for her to compose herself, I made my grand entrance, accompanied by Evelyn. Ignoring Gabriella's presence, I engaged in conversation with Evelyn, treating Gabriella as if she were invisible. After a moment of silence from me, Gabriella, visibly frustrated, stormed off. It was evident that my revenge plan was taking effect. It's been 3 days since my return from the business trip, and I've been actively avoiding Gabriella. Aware that her lovers were entangled in legal battles and unable to reach out to her, I ensured she remained oblivious to the chaos caused by the footage, having blocked them from her contacts. Over time, I'd orchestrated an atmosphere of neglect and discomfort within our home. Evelyn assumed control of her household affairs, dictating breakfast menus and dietary preferences. When Gabriella attempted to intervene, Evelyn dismissed her with a smile, implying that my preferences had changed and that I was willing to break old habits. Gabriella approached me with complaints about Evelyn's overbearing presence and unwarranted involvement in household matters. I dismissed her concerns, urging her to stop overreacting. While Evelyn excelled in organization and management, Gabriella remained frustrated by what she perceived as unnecessary interference. My hope was for Gabriella to direct her anger towards me, believing I had been unfaithful, allowing me to manipulate the situation. The following day, I suggested to Gabriella that she spend some time with her friends, arranging for a club where they could gather for a night of fun. Sensing her discomfort at home lately, I reasoned that this outing would lift her spirits while I tended to other matters late into the night. Despite granting her this freedom, I remained vigilant, receiving hourly reports of her whereabouts. Trust was a luxury I couldn't afford, not after recent events. With Gabriella out of the house, I seized the opportunity to meticulously prepare for the unforgettable surprise I had planned for her that evening. As I meticulously orchestrated every detail, anticipation surged within me, eager to witness Gabriella's reaction to the surprise awaiting her. Later that night, Gabriella returned home inebriated, stumbling into the living room to find me seated on the couch with Evelyn on my lap. Confusion clouded her expression as she approached us, demanding to know what was happening. I gazed at her with a smile and invited her to join us. But Gabriella recoiled in disgust, demanding that Evelyn vacate my lap. Just as Evelyn was about to comply, I instructed her to remain seated. Gabriella seethed with anger, accusing me of having an affair with Evelyn ever since her arrival, convinced that Evelyn was more than just a personal assistant. I simply smiled at her audacity to accuse me of infidelity when she herself was guilty of the same transgression. I dismissed Evelyn, directing her to the home theater, and Gabriella reluctantly followed, careful not to stumble. Standing beside me, she watched as I turned on the TV, revealing a familiar scene playing before her eyes. The color drained from her face as she realized it was footage from her night with multiple men. Staring at the screen in disbelief, she turned to me, unable to comprehend where I had obtained the incriminating material. Amused by her question and her lack of defense, I casually admitted to recording the footage myself. Her shock was palpable as she struggled to find words to explain herself, but only silence filled the room, heavy with the weight of her actions. Her face bore the unmistakable marks of guilt and regret, a silent admission of being caught red-handed and unable to formulate a defense. As I settled onto the couch, eagerly watching the footage, she glanced nervously between the screen and me, uncertain if I was seething with anger or finding amusement in her predicament. Commenting with a mix of fascination and sarcasm, I praised certain aspects of her interactions with one of the men, highlighting a skill of hers that I apparently admired. Motioning for her to join me, I encouraged us to review the entire footage together. With no other recourse, Gabriella reluctantly took her place beside me, her head bowed in shame as the damning scenes played out before us. In her bowed posture and pained expression, it was evident that Gabriella grasped the magnitude of her misdeeds. The discomfort radiating from her was palpable as she faced the consequences of her actions. Her remorse was palpable, evident in her demeanor as she braced herself for the consequences of her actions. Enduring 2 hours of footage, I remarked on its entertainment value, noting her apparent camaraderie with her companions. Rendered speechless in her defense, she timidly offered a feeble apology, acknowledging her lapse in judgment. Attempting to justify her actions, she recounted a tale of being coerced into a challenge by the men at the party, claiming she couldn't bear to let them best her. I couldn't help but admire her quick thinking in crafting such an elaborate story. Indulging her, I nodded along, giving the impression of buying into her narrative. Curious to test her storytelling prowess further, I prodded her on how she could have leveraged her status as my wife to extricate herself from the situation. To my surprise, she maintained her fabricated account, insisting she didn't want to tarnish my reputation by invoking our relationship. Despite the gravity of the situation, I couldn't help but marvel at her adeptness in weaving lies with such ease. Feigning sympathy for her perceived victimhood, I skillfully led Gabriella to believe that she had successfully deceived me with her fabricated tale. Just when she thought she had outsmarted me, I guided her to the dining table under the guise of offering her a glass of water. Seated before her, I placed the glass atop a piece of paper, catching her off guard. As she reached for the glass, her eyes fell upon the familiar invitation she had once concealed beneath the dresser. The glass slipped from her grasp, shattering upon impact. In that moment, the facade crumbled and Gabriella realized the futility of her attempts to deceive me. Overwhelmed by the weight of her actions, she collapsed to the ground, tears streaming down her face. Words failed her as she confronted the undeniable truth. I knew the extent of her betrayal. With her defenses shattered, she could offer nothing but tears as a plea for redemption. Confronting her with the evidence of her infidelity, I made it clear that there was no place for a cheater like her in my heart or my home. Despite her pleas for forgiveness, I remained steadfast in my decision. Having learned from past mistakes, I'm resolved never to repeat them. With a heavy heart but unwavering resolve, I bid farewell to the woman who had betrayed my trust, closing the door on a chapter of deceit and betrayal. She pleaded, claiming she had lost her bearings and succumbed to the allure of wealth. Yet, I remained resolute, recognizing that forgiveness wasn't an option. Though painful, severing ties with her was necessary for my well-being and self-respect. Moving forward, I resolved to scrutinize any future romantic interests to ensure their worthiness of my trust. A lesson gleaned from Gabriella's betrayal. Within a week, divorce papers were drafted by my lawyer. Determined to sever all ties, I ensured she received nothing from me, given the havoc she wrought upon my life. Photos and videos of her infidelity were disseminated in the media, tarnishing her reputation and diminishing her prospects. I took measures to undermine her credibility, cautioning major companies against employing her. Meanwhile, a private investigator continued to monitor her activities, ensuring I remained abreast of her endeavors. I aimed to demonstrate the challenges she would face without me by her side. Each day, I wanted her to rue the consequences of her actions. Her life going forward served as a consequence of her betrayal. I ensured she encountered difficulty finding accommodation and securing employment. When she sought a divorce, she rejected mutual terms and demanded alimony, which I found absurd, and chuckled at her audacious requests for money and property. She even feigned pregnancy in an attempt to secure child support and property in the child's name. I presented incriminating evidence to the judge, photos depicting her in compromising situations with multiple men, to cast doubt on her claims. I emphasized that I had never been that intimate with her to blindly accept paternity, requesting a DNA test to verify the child's parentage. During the test, it was revealed that she had fabricated the pregnancy. I pursued a defamation case against her alongside the divorce proceedings. Despite her pleas of financial hardship, claiming she lacked the means to compensate me, I remained steadfast. These consequences were the result of her own actions, consequences she should have considered before betraying my trust. The events of the past 3 months since my marriage have been incredibly tumultuous, and writing about them helps me process the hurt and pain I've endured. Maintaining a path of revenge was draining, and there were moments of deep depression when I felt like giving up entirely. Gabriella initially seemed different from other women I'd known, but her true intentions eventually surfaced. She wasn't interested in love. It was my money and property she coveted. I now realize why she resisted sharing a room with me. It would have been harder for her to conceal her deceit if we lived together. Discovering her betrayal was a painful awakening, and it's been difficult grappling with the aftermath. I felt the weight of public judgment and mockery, with people pitying me for being deceived. It's disheartening to endure such scrutiny and doubt from those around me. Friends, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this story. Share your comments below.